A white sheep says, "What happened to him?" totally shocked at how bloodied and bruised and messed up Jesus is. And a rainbow sheep says, "He stood between me and the church." I have been in a messy, confusing, kind of painful time of deconstructing evangelicalism for a few years now. I don't know how long. What is time? This channel and these podcast conversations have meant the world to me in working through these difficult thoughts. Hello and welcome to this podcast conversation of the Epic Kate Show. This conversation is with David Hayward, who is otherwise known as the NakedPastor. After 30 years in the church, he left the ministry to pursue his passion for art. NakedPastor uses words and images to challenge the status quo, deconstruct dogma, and offer hope for those who struggle and suffer under it. This conversation is so encouraging, and I think it's so necessary for anyone who has been dealing with doubts and struggles and just confusion about the love that a lot of us were grown up with, or the peace and happiness that we were promised, that we aren't seeing shown in a very effective way lately. I would love for you to check out any of my other conversations. I have a whole playlist on deconstruction. I've had wonderful conversations with Zach Hunt, Shane Claiborne. Those are just a few of the people. My friend Dale Norman, who's made some films about debunking end times theology. And a really great conversation with a non-binary autistic pastor who talked about how the Bible is not anti-LGBTQ. Oh, I want that video to get all the views. I do have fun on this channel. I do love to be silly, share vlogs, but I also use this channel to work through difficult things for the purpose of encouragement and growth and just coming out on the other side of all of this in a better, more peaceful place. So I hope that you will give this video a chance. You don't have to watch it, you can just listen. I want to thank you so much for taking this time. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk and be on my channel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And hello, everybody, all your listeners.
Oh man, I've been so touched by your work and just what you do to show God's genuine love in a world that has just made God so mean and judgmental and far away. It's heavy and it's just so, I feel so, it feels safe. It feels safe. When I feel safe talking to someone that I know is a peaceful person, is not a judgmental, mean person. My husband wanted me to ask you if you got NakedPastor from inspired by Jamie Oliver, Naked Chef.
Well, actually, he's pretty close. Yeah. I started NakedPastor back when Naked Chef was a thing, and Naked Archaeologist and Naked Truth and these kinds of things. So yeah, it's basically me being honest and open and vulnerable and just letting it all out. But as you can see, I have all my clothes on. And
was it a big change in you to take on that name, NakedPastor? Like, were you a closed person at some point?
No, I've always been open. But I was doing a blog at the time, and I was a pastor of churches at the time. And I wanted people to see what the life of a real pastor was like. So, not just all the great meetings and the wonderful worship music and all the conversions and all the money and all the love and everything. I wanted them to also see, behind the curtain and see the struggles and the doubts and fears and conflict and finances and people sick and dying and, the heartache of it as well. So that's why I called it NakedPastor. And that was back in 2005 when I started.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah, long time.
That's the year I became a missionary with Covenant Players and started traveling all over first all over the US and parts of Canada, and then all over Europe and South Africa.
Covenant Players, I knew some people in there.
Did you?
Yeah. So how long have you been there in Sweden?
I've been in Sweden for about 4-ish years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my twins were born here, and then we were still traveling doing the missionary thing until they were about a year and a half-ish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how we did that.
Yeah. So you're literally on an island.
Yeah, but it's not like it's a good sized island. It's like 3 hours top to bottom. It's not like you can walk across it in a day or anything. And my brain is just kind of swimming with like, oh, the things that I'd like to ask and talk about.
Well, ask away.
Yeah, it's just like, where do I even pluck a thing? The thing that my brain goes to when I think it's probably your most beautiful comic to me, because I have a trans brother, is the one where the shepherd is carrying.
Yeah, I know the one.
I'll just put it on the screen.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, where the shepherd's carrying. You know what? That cartoon has an interesting history, because I drew that cartoon some years ago, and it was Jesus just carrying a white, just a regular sheep, and other white sheep were like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hold it right there." He wasn't lost. We kicked him out, and so the cartoon was just about sheep just being mean to each other and kicking somebody out of the flock. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
But somebody said, "Oh, I would love it if you made it a rainbow sheep." And so I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. So the next version was a rainbow sheep. And then somebody else said, "Oh, I'd love it if you made it a trans sheep." And so I did, whoa, whoa, whoa. He wasn't lost. We kicked him out. And then Jesus said, "I know, and I found them." Different pronouns.
Yeah.
And then somebody else requested, "Could you do?" We kicked him out, and then Jesus said, "But I found her," and then so it all went. So now there's like 4 different versions of the trans sheet with all the pronouns. So it's pretty cool. That's how people help me do cartoons, right? They give me ideas, and so yeah, it's pretty cool.
So were you always accepting of LGBTQ people?
As far as I can remember, yeah. I mean, I was always I probably in my younger days, way back, was more like love the sinner, hate the sin kind of thing. And that was just my way of being inclusive or trying to be, because I was stuck in evangelicalism, and it's sort of a right-winged kind of fundamentalist approach to the Bible.
Yep.
But on the other hand, I had gay friends and trans friends and stuff, and I never thought that they were any less than anybody else or anything. So towards the end of my ministry in 2010, it was getting becoming more of an issue in the church I was in, to the point of I left the ministry in 2010. And then it was a few years later when the denomination voted to not be affirming. So I left, at the right time.
I had a really interesting conversation with the lady who was like, "I really want to be a kind, loving person, but how can I do that when I don't agree in my heart, and I just turn to the Bible because the Bible is the absolute authority." And she didn't want to talk theology with somebody who doesn't agree with her. And I can understand that. And it took me a long, long time to accept that the 6 verses that people use against LGBTQ are twisted out of shape and about rape and abuse and idol worship. It took a long time for me to get there too. But it's so interesting how many people are there. Like, I want to show love, but
Yeah.
hate the sin. I want them to think that I'm a nice person, but I want to separate what they do from who they are. Just like, oh.
So if people are still hung up about the Bible, about LGBTQ plus, there are scholars out there that are arguing that, like you said, that those aren't about homosexuality or whatever. And you can go that route. My route was, I'm not going to wait around for, hundreds of more years for Bible scholars to decide who we can love and who we can't love. And so that's the route I took. Because you know what? They're going to keep arguing about it until the last day. So you can go that route and wait for the jury to come back with a verdict. It's not going to happen. Or you can just choose to love. It's funny how, there's a lot of other verses that we just kind of say, oh, well, that was back then. It's not now. The way women cut their hair, or men with beards, or if we can eat shrimp, or if we can let women speak, or, anything like that. Those things are like, or if we can get divorced or remarry, all these things are like, oh, well, that's the old days. So, yeah.
Yeah,
I was talking to a friend yesterday who went to a funeral recently, and it was at a Roman Catholic church. I have a lot of Roman Catholic friends, and there's some good Roman Catholic churches around. But they brought the body in an urn. It had been cremated. It wasn't that long ago that if you were cremated, then you would have to go to purgatory and wait and be prayed out of purgatory so that you could enter into heaven. And other things as well, like now there isn't even purgatory isn't even official doctrine anymore. And it's just like, oh, we changed our minds. Meanwhile, there have been generations of people suffering torment, believing that their loved ones weren't in heaven, but were trapped somewhere in between. Or if somebody burned in a house fire or whatever, that they would never experience a resurrection or whatever. Just, I'm saying weird, old-fashioned theology that we now say, oh, well, that's old. That's the old days. We don't really believe that anymore. So my hope is going to be that way with the LGBTQIA plus reality, is one day we're going to say, oh, that was the old days. Meanwhile, our gay and trans and bi friends, etc., suffer under the weight of bad theology, right?
I recently had a conversation with a young man who went to Liberty University and went through conversion therapy there. He didn't realize that's what it was.
Exactly.
Just the pain of constantly saying like, oh, I'm not really gay. I'm just having gay thoughts. And if only God would just take this from me, just take the gayness away.
Yeah. I live in Canada where it's illegal in most places, to conversion therapy is not allowed. Yeah. So I'm happy about that. It's probably the same in Sweden, am I right?
Oh, probably. But Sweden was later than I thought it was to the legalizing gay marriage thing. But yeah. You said that you were really entrenched in evangelicalism. So what kind of led you to getting out of that?
Well, just my own spiritual journey, eventually led me out of, I came to the place where I realized I couldn't grow anymore where I was. And, I felt the only way that I can continue on my journey was by leaving the ministry. And I did that, like I said already, in 2010. And then I went straight into, I went and taught at a university for a couple of years. But then I decided to give NakedPastor a shot full time, and it worked. So that's what I'm doing now full time, is NakedPastor stuff. But it's just me growing My last church was a wonderful church. I loved it there, had a great community, wonderful music and wonderful people and leadership and youth and, all that. But it just got to the point where I couldn't really feel free to grow without upsetting too many people.
Mm.
Yeah.
In that culture, there's just no room for doubts.
No, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, especially, yeah, that's right. And it's gotten, it's gotten more, in my opinion, dogmatic. And so it's like lines are being drawn, and you have to be very, very evangelical these days in the church denomination that I was in. And I just didn't fit anymore.
It seems like the way that the dogmatic evangelicalism demands to be manifested in is extreme nationalism. It's probably a little bit different in Canada to America. I don't think you guys are probably as nuts about your flag as Americans are and stuff. But,
No,
but
no, we're not. No, that's right. But
is it similar?
that nationalism, populism and everything is kind of growing around the world. It's concerning, like what's happening in the States. The same thing is happening in Brazil with Bolsonaro, happened in the Philippines and, other places, as well as like there's efforts in France and there's movement in Canada, a very far right wing kind of movement. And in the UK, other places. So it's on the rise. And I think that's, a reaction to how the world is progressing and becoming more liberal. I think fundamentalism and populism and right-wing fanaticism is sort of a reaction to that. So
It's scary stuff.
yeah, it is very concerning. Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's the people who grew up teaching me about God's love and mercy and forgiveness. They also, from the beginning, like being a child, we're still believing in the death sentence. We're still thinking that being the AIDS was a punishment for being gay, that like these horrible things. And
Right.
it's like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very true.
Oh man. And I was looking at another one of your comics earlier that was like, wow, this woman preacher's really good. I'm looking forward to a man going up and saying exactly what she says so that I can agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, that patriarchy.
Yeah, it's very strong.
And
Very strong.
it's a part of the whole puzzle of the dogmaticness. That's totally a word. It's like the man has to be in control of everything.
Yep.
The woman is just, whoa. Sorry about that. The fire alarm thing chirped and it surprised me. It's like,
Yeah, it's like I said, the more progressive things become in the world. So we're seeing advances in LGBTQIA acceptance and understanding trans people, race issues, feminist issues, justice issues, refugees, poverty, exorbitant wealth, all these things that are talked about in the Bible. The more we progress in these areas, the more reaction you're going to see from literalists and fundamentalists. And that's why I think the populist movement right now is gaining steam, is because there's so many people who can't stand the thought of a woman teaching men or sharing wealth or feeding the poor or including people of different sexualities and genders and so on. So that's why I think we're seeing what's happening in the world right now. It's a reaction.
Wow. I was thinking about the doubt and how in progressive Christianity, there's room for doubts. And it just is so much, I don't know. I'm so sick of people saying, like, oh, there's nothing progressive about the gospel. It's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And like, yeah, slavery changed. Like, it used to be okay. Now it's not. It's like, I think about how hard it must be for people in ministry who have doubts, but have to just swallow them and act like everything's fine.
Yeah.
Because everyone's looking up to them. Like, what would you say to a person who's in ministry and or even in leadership who's struggling with doubts?
Well, I was there. I was there for many, many years, and I didn't. For me, I always gravitated towards churches where I felt comfortable to grow and explore, and because for me, you can't grow without questions. Wisdom stops. Wisdom is on the other side of questions and doubt and mystery. And you're not going to get there by dogmatic answers. And so doubt and questioning and mystery and all that, I've been on that road for a long, long time. And that's how people grow, and including pastors, people in ministry. So if they found a congregation who is open to exploring and growing, then I think that's great. Continue to explore and grow, like I did in a church. And when I spoke, I never spoke top down. I never like pretended I was the guru and everybody were my followers and I was feeding them like a mother bird feeds her baby birds. I always assumed the position that we're all in this together. We're all exploring together and discovering together. And as long as you have that attitude, you can go a long way in ministry in the church, like I did. I served the church as a pastor for 30 years. And I still feel like I'm serving the church and people spiritually out there, but it's online now. It's not at a local church. It's online and all over the world. So yeah, I think doubts and questions and mystery is a huge, important feature of spiritual growth and wisdom. It's got to be.
I love that. It's not a problem, it's a feature.
That's right.
It's so opposite from what we were taught, that you got to have it all together. And
that's right.
Like, go out there and make people want what you've got. Well, people do a really crappy job of that.
Yeah. So when you say a struggle with doubt, in one way it's a struggle because doubt isn't comfortable. You want to know. And doubt is uncomfortable. I'll admit that. But the struggle isn't so that we can find the answer and get over it. The struggle is getting used to mystery being a part of our lives and just embracing that. That's the struggle. Once you get to that place where you realize, oh, I don't need the answer. I'm sort of living in this mystery and it's huge, like the ocean, like the air I breathe, and I'm okay with it. Oh. That's where peace of mind comes and can't be shaken.
It sounds so nice. It reminds me quite a bit. I'm sure you must have been influenced by Richard Rohr.
Well, yeah, we're kind of, I think Richard Rohr and I are kind of a little bit on the same page. We've emailed back and forth and stuff. Cool. I was teasing him because I've been the Naked Pastor for a long time. And he wrote a book called The Naked Truth. And so I was making fun of him there about that. But yeah, so we're kind of talking the same language pretty much, Yeah. The mystical Christ.
I'd sure love to listen to you guys have a conversation.
That would be interesting. Yeah.
Oh man, I would love to get to have a chance to talk with him. That would be I love
Yeah.
how in his conversations, he always makes people, because I've listened to him talk to Oprah and a bunch of other people. He always makes people feel like, wow, you're really smart. I really got something from what you said. I'm going to think about that.
Yeah. It's called humility.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah.
refreshing when you see it.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That whole embracing the mystery, I really feel like that's a huge part of what I'm doing on this channel with this show. The word show feels so silly and important, but it's like somebody told me I should have a name, so I was like, how's that? But it's not, I'm not coming across as a guru either, obviously, but I want to explore these things and I want to
Yeah.
get better.
Yeah.
I have a very loud kitten here.
Oh, look at so small.
Yeah, only a month old. Sometimes
Wow.
get so bored and just start meowing a bunch, so then I have to pick them up or put them down.
That's so cute.
And they're always crawling up my pant leg, and there's 6 of them.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
It was just really special what you said. It was washing over me about embracing that mystery in that piece, because I in the deconstructing mode I've been in, I've done a lot of my deconstructing in these conversations with people, and like my
Right.
anger was just spilling out because it's the grief of realizing that you were wrong. It's embarrassing, it's painful, and it's like, what else, if you taught me this wrong, what else is wrong? Is the sky even blue anymore? And it's nice to come out on the other side of the anger and the grief, but to still be okay with not knowing and to not feel like I have to do anything out of obligation or guilt or shame or fear or whatever.
Yeah. Well, Kate, I think I try to help people see that you don't need to be ashamed or angry with how you were, what you believed growing up. This happens to every single person in the entire world and has forever and always will, where you're taught to believe something and you grow up believing stuff. That's just natural. And you wouldn't be who you are now if you weren't who you were then.
Mm.
Who you are is the next chapter in Kate's story. And it wouldn't make sense if you ripped out the earlier chapters. You wouldn't make sense if you didn't believe what you believed as a child or as a teenager, as a young adult. So I don't recommend people feel ashamed or embarrassed by what they believed. They can look at it and say, oh my goodness, that's hilarious, I believe that. But not to be ashamed or angry, because it sort of gets it's kind of like manure and compost and earth. It all gets folded in together, the good and the bad, and that's what you grow out of. And so I've been around. I've been in very charismatic places, prophetic places, revival places, Roman Catholic, high church, low church, house church, evangelicalism, reformed theology, you name it. I've been around mysticism, you name it. I've been there. And I'm not embarrassed at all. It all is a part of who I am. I wouldn't be able to sit here right now and talk to you the way I'm talking with you unless I'd been through all that.
Mm.
It's all contributed to my wisdom now, who I am and what I say. And it's the same with you, Kate. You wouldn't be the delightful, deconstructed podcast interviewer and person you are now, unless you'd gone through all that crazy stuff
Yeah.
and made it, because it made you who you are now.
Yeah. I think in another way, people feel they've been told to never have any negative emotions.
Yeah.
So when they're finally allowed to feel and ask for what they want and say what's wrong, it just comes out like
Yeah.
for lack of words.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Whoever invented that crazy idea, I don't know. You shouldn't have negative emotions. Even Paul says, don't let the sun go down in your anger, which evidently anger is okay. Just don't die that way if you can help it. And so negative emotions are necessary, like the stages of grief.
Mm.
There's anger, there's depression, there's all kinds of negative emotions, but you need to go through those to get to the other side, which is peace, right?
And like
Acceptance.
Eckhart Tolle talks about, of you are not your feelings. Like just
Right.
you allow your, I don't know if he said it like this, but like talking to something, you gotta let yourself feel the feelings, but you
Right.
don't define yourself by them.
Right. Yeah, we tell our kids that. We have 3 kids, they're all grown up now, but we always used to tell them, feel the feels, I think it's important to be able to feel your feelings and be able to identify them. I remember when I was in seminary and I was taking a course, and I was on clinical pastoral education, where you learn how to listen to people and help them process their pain and struggles and grief and everything. And so it's important to be able to identify what other people are feeling. And so we had to go through our own, study what emotions were and name them. And I was really surprised how many of us didn't know what an emotion was. And a feeling that they were feeling, they wouldn't be able to identify it. It takes some practice, and it takes some develop skill to be able to identify what you're feeling. How many times have we said, I don't know what I'm feeling? And, it's because we've been taught you shouldn't have strong emotions or negative emotions. And so we never were taught, and we never learned how to name our emotions, which we know once we can name something, we can have power over it. But it's like Eckhart Tolle and many, many, many other wise people, feel the feels, let them go through you, like your thoughts, negative thoughts, let them go through. Don't try to create a dam, because then they'll get stuck there. Create a passageway so that feelings and these thoughts can pass through, and you can stand at the end of it with deeper wisdom.
Yeah. So many necessary things to learn.
Yeah.
And so many people are frustrated because they feel like, I've been living in a shadow for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of myself, of, what are you trying to do? And then they come out and they realize, I don't know who I am. I don't know how to feel. I don't know what I want. I don't know what any of it has been for. Like, what would you say to people that are just starting out on this reconstructing journey?
Well, I tell people, like come to my Instagram account, for example. There's a lot of people there, NakedPastor on Instagram, who are deconstructing, and it's a really good, pretty safe community. We monitor it very well, and we keep haters and trolls and mean people out of there as best we can. And just start sharing your story. I talk a lot about deconstruction, and you'll have a chance to say, well, this is kind of what's happened to me. And then secondly, realize this is not weird and unusual. So many people are going through it. Thirdly, this is healthy. This is growth. It's not a bad thing. You're not backsliding, and you're not rejecting God, or you're not going to hell or anything. This is natural growth. It's like adolescents in their home. There comes a period of time when you start questioning and even challenging your parents and their authority, and teachers and their authority, and police and their authority. that's what adolescents do, because they're trying to figure out how to live in the world as an adult, with their own autonomy and power. And it's the same in the spiritual world. It needs to be the same in the spiritual world, where we learn how to be autonomous, how we learn how to drive our own car, captain our own ship, be the master of our own destiny, take the steering wheel of our lives, and we start questioning things, and maybe even bucking authority a little bit, and questioning those who claim they have power over us and stuff. So this is totally normal, and this is growth. You're not weird. This is totally natural and totally healthy. So buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Yeah. It's just so freaking hard for people who were raised in an absolutely authoritarian environment because I said so.
Yeah.
Know your place. And it's just to feel like there are people that are made to feel like their souls are in danger, that the fear motivated the theology that's just so poisonous and toxic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I'm just so passionate on this channel to talk to people, to help tell the stories that need to be told, to show to things that can fill people's hearts with hope that things can get better.
Right. Yep. Yeah, for sure. And they do. I've seen it over and over again when people take control of their own lives. Sure, they're going to upset the apple cart. They're going to upset people. They're going to get concerned family members and friends and church people and pastors and everything. But when you get through the other side, you realize you made the right step, for sure.
Yeah. What would you say to people who have a really hard time with the concept of picking up their Bible because they know that it's just been taught to them with toxic theology and so many things, and those words are just infused with all the memories of the way that the Bible was used to hurt them?
Right. Take a break. Just take a break. Seriously.
I love it.
I remember Eugene Peterson. You know who he is? He
wrote the Message Bible.
That's right. He was in Canada for a while, I went to hear him speak quite a bit, and I met with him a few times, and we talked because he was Presbyterian and I was ordained Presbyterian years ago, and he frankly said when one time a woman came and the Bible to her had become an instrument of abuse in her life, and he told her, stop reading it, take a year off, take a break. It's the same with anything. I had a friend who was attacked by a dog when she was young, and she always felt pressure to love dogs. I'm like, you don't have to love dogs. Like, you don't have to have a dog, and you don't have to be not afraid of dogs. It took a lot of pressure off her, and so it's anything like that. If it's very triggering for you, it's helpful to get help and talk things through and work through your triggers and be able to remember without reliving and, get to the other side of that. So I have no problem telling people take a break.
Yeah. I love how so often the best answer is the most simple one.
Yeah.
We can just get so wrapped up in, no, but it has to be harder than that. I have to really, because that's another part of the toxic theology, is I really have to be suffering to be doing it right.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, man.
That's the kind I grew up with too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. If it's not hard, it's not right somehow.
Poverty mentality as well.
Yeah, totally. Well, it's been nice talking with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Is there anything else that you would like to say or?
No, just I appreciate the questions and the conversation, and hi to all your listeners, and come follow me on Instagram, or I'm on TikTok now. I'm on
Oh, fun.
Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and everywhere as Naked Pastor. So, and I'm really good at responding to emails or direct messages or private messages. So reach out and I'll respond. I promise.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. The way that I end my conversations is I give hugs. Hugs.
Hugs back.
Wow. How does this video make you feel? Where are you at in your process of life? Have your beliefs changed and shifted since you started? Yeah, just want to thank you again for taking this time to listen to this podcast conversation. It's not an easy time to be dealing with stuff. Not that there was ever a good time to deal with stuff, but I think it's better than just staying the same and staying stagnant and not actually growing. Like he was saying, it's a feature. These doubts are a feature, not a bug. So, anyway, hugs! Nostrils of death!